Shalom. My name is Daryl Guberman. I am a proud American Jewish business leader. My Hebrew name is Mordecai Leib, named after my great-grandparents, who were marched down to the end of town in Poland and murdered. This goes to El Al Airlines, and I am giving you an alert. If you haven't known it already, I've looked into your background about the planes that you have on board, Boeing as a matter of fact, and you've had issues with it, quality control issues. Today, I will expose the factor that Boeing relinquished their inspection duties to their accreditation body, ANSI-ANAB, the American National Standards Institute, and the American National Accreditation Board, where they sit as a member. Boeing at one time sat as a member on ANAB's board that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. They also sit on ANSI. Okay, they also sit on the board of directors of ANAB to direct the ship. Okay, to direct the management ship as to making decisions. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. In 2002, you will see, and I will prove with a shadow of a doubt, that they relinquished the source inspection at suppliers to no other than the American National Standards Institute and the American National Crediting Board. To make matters worse, El Al, and I say this with a heavy heart, that the FAA went in to Boeing and basically gave regulatory authority to Boeing in 2009. You can't make this up. This video today is about QA expert Daryl Guberman alerts El Al Israeli Airlines and passengers about Boeing being FAA regulator from 2009 to present. You cannot make this up. I also wanted to say this as a proud American Jewish business leader. There are a couple sayings. In a dark room, one candle will light it. That's all you need is one candle. And that's the way I feel, illuminating you to this quality conundrum. Number two is, if you can save one life, you've saved the world eternal. And the last one is by David Foster Wallace, who said, "The truth will set you free, but not until it is finished with you." Again, my name is Daryl Guberman. I am a quality professional with over 40 plus years in quality and manufacturing, both in aerospace, medical implants, medical materials, printing, and plastic distribution, where we dealt with every industry. My background is composite plastics, Kevlar, boron, graphite, metal matrix composites, ceramics, non-ferrous metals, aluminum, titanium alloys. We're going to continue. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation that has both federal agencies and corporations on board. In 2015, Randy Dodry, the Vice President of ANAB, the Chairman of the International Accreditation Forum, Incorporated in Delaware, which is a repository for national and international accreditation bodies. He was also the principal on the IAF 990 tax form, which means he had command and control of the whole ball of wax. He handed over leadership to this communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who's been involved with America's quality and the world's quality since 1994. At the same time he became the chairman of the IAF, he was also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. He is also mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take your data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. We go over here and see him in the lab at Wuhan, China in 2017. Around 2018, okay, and this is the BioLevel 4 lab that released the COVID virus, okay? And Pamela Sale, the vice president of ANSI-ANAB, confesses to this under legal deposition in Texas. She said, and she's a vice president of quality certification for laboratory. She said from one laboratory to another, there are variances. no protocol. In 2016, I was invited by Randy to join either the ANAP or the IAF or both. But how could I, as a proud American, join an organization that had basically cybersecurity issues? And he was on board from 2015 to 21. I have data that shows how China infiltrated the FBI, the CDC, and NIH, stole it all, DOD, Department of Defense. And they hacked during that time, during his time of duty. ANSI, actually ANAP sits as a member on ANSI's board. In 2018, ANSI took over complete control over ANAP. They were also sat on the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware, both ANSI and ANAP, from 2015 to 2021. And I hope El Al and I hope Israeli people really watch this part, because sitting by an American-based company on an American-based company is you have none other than Iran and Pakistan. Iran, who wants to see the destruction of the United States and Israel. You have Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden, and they are equivalent in accreditation to ANAP, ANSI ANAP, on top of it. And the reason why I say ANSI ANAP is because ANSI took over complete control over ANAP. One of the worst things is that you have Iran subsidizing and financing Hamas. So can we say that ANSI ANAP are a reliable company to have an accreditation with? Absolutely not. Sitting on ANSI's board, you have 7 different registrars. And by the way, my fellow Jews, TUV that sits there was involved with the Nazis certifying the containment vessels for carbon monoxide. We have actual letters from commandants at concentration camps. I do not make this up. Please contact me, 203-556-1493, or Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, TQRS@yahoo.com. You cannot make this up. The commandant was saying, we need 30 of our cylinders for the carbon monoxide. Heil Hitler. Yeah, no bullshit. You also have Intertek. Intertek is the registrar of Sparrow Aerospace that manufactures a lot of parts for the aerospace community, where their quality is kind of a little bit, how should we say, suspect. And you have 7 registrars, all placing the ANAP logo on there. Is there oversight? Absolutely, unequivocally not. And you can see that with the failures at Boeing, failures at Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. We'll get to this. Now we bring out Boeing. This is very important. In 2002, Boeing sent out this supplier notification concerning if you are AS 9100 certified, that's the International Organization of Standards certification for aerospace, you basically send us your certificate, and then you can send us your parts. And we don't have to send source inspectors to look at your facility. And that's been going on, Israel and El Al, for over 22 years. You cannot make this up, since 2002. And let me read this to you. They say survey, but it's actually the word audit. An on-site Boeing survey/audit of the supplier's quality system if need be. Our preference is to deal with proven suppliers with excellent quality performance and not have to do on-site audits. For 22 years, they've been neglecting quality. The machine shop manufactures a part, they send in a certificate, Boeing checks off the box, the parts come in, and what Boeing is going to try to do is they're going to try to blame the suppliers. Blame the suppliers. They were a designate by the FAA. They had FAA authority. And if you don't believe it, here it is. And I will read portions of this. I will gladly, it's going to be down below my video in the description. The FAA increased the authority of Boeing's commercial airplanes division to self-certify its own aircraft. The Boeing employs to perform tasks on behalf of the FAA that include oversight of testing and product standards, along with certification of aircraft technologies and new aircraft designs. So you have a definite problem here. They became a regulator of the FAA. They are the FAA. So we have major problems since 2009, which is 15 years, compounded by the 2002, if you're ANSI ANAB accredited, that they sit on the board of, send us a cert, check off the box, send us the parts, and go on. It is not the supplier's fault. It is Boeing's negligence, as you can see. Boeing sits on ANSI's board. Boeing. On their supplier portal, you will check it out, and I would suggest you check it out because if they were so into their quality certifications, they would have changed what it says on here. I changed it to ANSI ANAB because in 2018, that's when ANSI took over complete control over ANAB. On their actual portal, it says ANSI ASQ National Accrediting Board ANAB. The American Society for Quality owned 50% at the time of ANAB, and ANSI owned 50% of ANAB at that time. ANSI took over and became ANSI ANAB. So for 6 years, Boeing's website has been like that. Do you think a corporation with such power should have at least upgraded their site after 6 years? Unbelievable. They also have ANSI ANAB or internationally equivalent. As I showed you, Iran and Pakistan are international equivalents to ANSI ANAB, and ANSI ANAB are again underwriters for both the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware and also the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation in Australia. If you are having confusion, if it's confusing for you, you're saying, what is this guy saying? Well, here are some articles that show you without a doubt that during their time when they were FAA authority, and they still are, they were fudging documentation on their jet airliners. If I was you, El Al, from 2002 up till now, I'd get their books on your aircraft because something does not smell right, especially when they and Kobe Steel, their steel manufacturer, has been fudging documentation. To make matters worse, just several weeks ago, a V-22 Osprey, a Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey crashed, killing the servicemen and women on board. In their composite facility, V-22 Boeing Bell V-22 composite facility, since I am a specialist when it comes to quality of composites, they were found that they're, again, fudging documentation, and they got fined $8.1 million because of that. From 2007 to 2018, they were fudging documentation. To me, I guess the FAA gave them also authority. Once they gave commercial airlines authority, self-certify, they also did it to the military because for 11 years, they've been fudging documentation. And the problem with composites, as I'm sure you're very well aware, that let's take graphite, for example. Graphite with a resin impregnated fiber. You lay them on top of each other. Between time, temperature, and pressure, that those plies become a one solid component. Now, if you have interstitial bubbles, which are in between the fabric or in between the layers, you will have during flight or during, whatever, being installed on the aircraft, due to vibratory stresses in that, those bubbles will disbond and you will have fracture or disbonding of fabric, up to and including loss of aircraft and possibly loss of the crew. The problem here too is, LL, is you have the FAA sitting over by Boeing. And most recently, in America, they said that the National Transportation and Safety Board, which is part of the DOT, is going to investigate with the FAA. Now, I want to ask you something. You guys are smart and gals are smart over there. How can a regulator, FAA, look at the FAA? You saw it firsthand. They gave the permission. They authorized Boeing to be self-certified and an FAA authority. FAA regulator. On top of that, you have the DOT with the FAA going to investigate the regulator, Boeing. Is there something wrong? Is there a conundrum? There certainly is. And the final thing I'm going to say is that we have problems. You have David Calhoun here, the CEO who's been involved with Boeing since 2009. He is not just the CEO, but by the FAA coming in and giving regulatory authority to Boeing, he's probably an FAA administrator. That's exactly what he is. And then they hired this guy, thank you for your service, Lieutenant General Donald E. Kirkland, or Kirkland Donald, Boeing Comprehensive Quality Review, to watch over the 737. Well, if they were regulatory FAA, Boeing, and you have the regulatory authority FAA trying to fix something that should have been fixed a long time ago, he's not going to do anything. And then you have, of course, Patrick Shanahan, former Defense Secretary, Deputy Secretary, and he's the CEO of Spirit Aerosystems. My feeling is he got promoted in September of 2023. They got out the other guy because they know the quality issues were going to spring up for some strange reason. I'm going to stop here, but I can't stop. I need to play David Calhoun, who got interviewed, by CNBC, when the whole issue of Alaska Air with that door plug popping came about. And this is what he says. And when he says regulator, I have to chuckle, because Boeing is a regulator for the FAA, and the FAA is a regulator, supposedly for Boeing. They're both regulators. How could the regulator regulate a regulator? And here it is.
Speculate, but I will say this. The work that our regulator, in this case the FAA, has been doing to inspect the situation and create a procedure and a protocol for the airlines to go out and inspect each and every one of the airplanes, 100% of them, and make certain that the work that our regulator, in this case the FAA, has been doing.
The work of our regulator, but as I showed you in that document where it said the FAA gave self-certification privileges to Boeing, they basically became an FAA. So you have FAA and FAA, and then you have the National Transportation Safety Board on the DOT. Where is the quality? You know, when I said to you, in a dark room, all it takes is one candle. And many times I feel like David against Goliath, because what I'm telling you is fact. I have over 40 plus years in quality. We've been open business-wise for going on 13 years. I say this because my heart goes out to those people who put their tuchuses on the seat of an El Al aircraft, and you have to think, after seeing this, who inspected it? Who's the oversight? The accreditation body is in bed with the airplane company. What is going on? My telephone number is 203-556-1493, or Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, TQRS at yahoo.com. Since this is Friday, I think it's the 20th, good Shabbos. I thank you. I appreciate you.